I met Kurt in 1976. I worked at the Indian Mall at a dress specialty shop, and a friend across the mall, Robbie Metcalf, he and I became buddies because we all worked there and we were all college friends and stuff like that. And he said, "I have someone I want you to meet. I think he'd be perfect for you." Kurt played intramural sports for his fraternity, the Teaks. So he was on the baseball team, and so he came in and he had on a baseball uniform, and he was adorable and shy, and I thought he was the sweetest person I'd ever met. I did most of the talking, but I still could tell he was really sweet because he listened to me. And then we knew that we were just right for each other. We were best friends. We talked about everything. We were different but compatible all at the same time. We met in April. He proposed in September 1st. And then we got married on February 4th, 1977. So 9 months, I guess, of dating, or before we got married. We were married in less than a year. And it was 43 years later, here I am. So it was perfect. Autumn was a surprise baby. I thought I had the flu, and so she became permanent flu for me. So I thought I was really sick, went to the doctor and they said, "You're gonna have a baby." I knew that he was gonna be a great dad because Autumn came after many hours of labor, and the minute that they put her in his arms, he said, "My sweet baby girl." So all he could do was just look at her, and her eyes were open, big brown eyes were open, and so I thought, yeah, he's gone already, and she's like 3 minutes old.
Well, you know, my dad has been my best friend ever since I can remember. So I didn't have a typical childhood. In fact, it was more idyllic than most kids have because my dad just made this world for me where I could go into the woods with a book and disappear for hours and pretend like I was Laura Ingalls Wilder from Little House on the Prairie or maybe Anne of Green Gables.
Kurt was involved, and he was a pony when he needed to be. He was involved that he read 15,000 books every evening.
He would tell me to go and pick out a book, and instead I would have like a stack, and he would have to tell me to kind of pare it down a little bit. But he read to me every night and fostered in me just a love for words and literature, and always encouraged me to think outside of the box, be my own person, and march to the beat of my own drum.
I don't know how you can love too much, but sometimes it's like he loved Autumn so much that it was pretty special. It just was. They had a real connection that was really beautiful. She could talk to him about anything.
So my dad always taught me to do my best regardless of what it was or what the task required for me to do my best, period, which carried over into my scholastic achievements and endeavors because I learned hard work from him and learned to apply myself and learned to take pride in doing my best.
He wanted nothing but God's best for her life, and he wanted to be the kind of dad that God wanted it to be, and he felt like he failed at that. So, I mean, he never ever thought he measured up, but I was reminded that he did. God helped him, and he did measure up.
So my popsicle was a very multifaceted person. The kindest, smartest, most gentle person I've ever known, but also could just let loose and put a spoon on his nose, you know, or do really silly dances and didn't care who was watching type of deal, you know. Saying he has the moves like Jagger, which he did not.
What do you think? It's got the moves like Jagger.
Let me see.
Oh.
When Kurt and I first got married, his family, they didn't have any pets in the house, and so, but I loved animals. He loved animals, but he just wasn't allowed to ever let them come in. So then we had Autumn, and she loved cats, and I love cats the most. Well, we had a dog too, but we really, really love cats. So they couldn't come in. So later, let's fast forward to Autumn's an adult, and she's working in the nursing home, and there are kittens that are left in the parking lot. So, and they're wild, of course, so she said, can I bring them home? And he said, yes. So then, Dad, they're just so little. So they graduated to the sunroom of our house. And then eventually they came in the house. And now that we have, and then John Valjean, Epony, Bonteen, Bagheera, J. Alfred Prufrock, Luna, Apollo. He quickly became a cat lover. I mean, literally a cat dad.
My dad's always loved animals, and as you can tell, we have like 1,000 cats. We have a cat farm here. But probably the funniest memory is him with our lovebird, Lovey, who thought Dad was her mate, and so she would get out of her cage and hippity hop all the way to his office, crawl up his leg, and then we called it his poop shirt because she could poop on his shirt and it was okay. And she would just nestle on his neck and give him little kisses, and she sat on the edge of his plate and ate with our meals, which I never thought my dad would have let an animal do that, but he had a very soft spot.
13 years ago, we got some Kurt went to for a regular routine checkup for a sinus infection, and so the doctor performed a prostate exam just because he was there, and he said, "I know I can't get you in here," and Kurt was 52. We called and said, "Well, we think we see a problem," so Kurt went to a specialist, and we never dreamed it would be cancer, but we got that news that it was cancer, and they chose to operate, so I think that's when our journey began. Kurt said, "Nothing happens by coincidence. There's always a purpose in everything." I don't know exactly my purpose and why I'm suffering, but I know that God does, and He's going to help me and see me through it. But as Kurt would walk in and push through the pain, and he never complained. He never once was angry with God at all, because he knew that he was His child. And that, I remember he said, Jesus Christ died on the cross. Who am I to say this is suffering? This is nothing compared to what our Savior suffered. He said, so I'm not going to whine and complain, because that doesn't help you. It doesn't help me. I don't think I ever heard him complain at all.
I'm really grateful that my parents moved back to Arkansas a couple of half years ago, just to have the opportunity to spend some time with my dad. And he fought so hard for so long, and we always told him that we wanted his quality of life to be paramount. That was most important to us. And to see how he faces disease with such grace and faith and humility, it was very inspiring.
He knew that his life was in God's hands, and he knew that God was going to take care of him no matter how he did it. And I believe that with all my heart that God was speaking to him his last week.
The last few months with him were precious. We knew the time was coming. Of course, it happened faster than we thought that it was going to. But it was beautiful the way God took him quickly, and he was at home with all of those who love him the most.
And so we prayed and just asked God to give him exactly the strength and the peace he needed for this journey of dying with a painful, horrible disease. But still, he was still grateful and praising God that day that we said our prayers. And I told him it was okay to die. And that God would take care of Autumn and me. We'd be okay. And for him not to worry about it anymore. And that it was okay for him to let that responsibility, get that off your shoulders.
I often worried about how I would live without my dad because I couldn't picture a world without him. But since he's been gone, I have had so many opportunities, and there's been so many times that I have felt him with me when I'm watching a sunset, or I'm listening to one of his favorite birds sing their song. You know, it's just like he's still here with me in spirit. And I'm just grateful that I knew a man like that, and I had him as a father. Not only did I know him, he was my father.
And grateful that he led our home to follow God, trust God, believe in God, to not doubt God, to not be angry with God.
And I am a very lucky lady to have had a popsicle like him. And I miss him every day. But I just imagine him frolicking and dancing in heaven, doing cartwheels and leaping for joy and doing things he wasn't able to do here on earth. And that's how I like to picture him.
I don't know, I'm just grateful for him. I don't even know how to, I really don't know how to put into words how wonderful he was. So, yeah.
And guard you, give you grace, light, and peace. I love you, sweetheart. I love you too. Take care of you. Hope you have a great day.